Hey folks, and welcome back to another Facebook Live, an impromptu one. I've just finished a interactive webinar with people who are preparing for their final interview, sometimes known as the senior interview or the in-force interview. And I just wanted to share with you some of the awesome learning that came out of tonight, if that's okay with you. Just for a short 10 minutes, that's all. Not even that, might not even be 10 minutes. Anyway, I'm Brendan from Bluelight, for those of you who've not come across these videos before. For those of you who haven't, a little bit about what I've been doing for people like you over the past several years. I've been coaching and supporting people just like you to succeed in the recruitment process. My conservative estimate, there's a good 6,000 people plus are now in the police as a result of my support. So anyway, it's broadcast initially out to the Bluelight Facebook group. It's going out live. And if you're joining me live this evening, I'd like to talk to you about some of the awesome learning that's just come out of one of my in-force interview webinars. This builds on the course that goes with the interview package. It's where we get to practice, and that's what we've just been doing with a group of people from all sorts of different backgrounds, applying for all sorts of different forces, although Merseyside and GMP had a strong contingent in tonight's live. So a couple of things I'd like to talk to you about is the competency type answers, those competency interview questions, where you're going to be asked questions like, please can you tell me about a time when? Please can you tell me about a time when? And one of them was about making a difficult decision where you had to account for that decision to others. And the other one was about challenging someone's inappropriate behaviour. But before I continue, just a few shout outs to a few people who've just joined now, a few names I recognise here. So Harry, good evening to you. Nathan, Oscar and Sam, good evening to you. Like I said, an impromptu Facebook Live, but I just wanted to quickly share with you some of this learning, because I think if you're preparing for an interview, this is so important for you. So the first one is the difference between a big decision and a difficult decision. So the question I asked of the candidates at tonight's webinar was, please can you tell me about a time when you've made a difficult decision where you've had to account for that decision to another? And I'm not going to breach anyone's confidentiality by talking about who they are or what the role was, because I don't want to I don't want you to ever work out who it was. Be inappropriate to do so, but this has cropped up so many times before, and what I'd like you to avoid is it's the first aid, it's the saving someone's life Gucci type job that involves tea and medals the next day in the chief superintendent's office. So this example that was given was about, basically it was a first aid situation, and there wasn't really a difficult decision to make. It was either I take this course of action and the person could die, or I take this course of action and the person could end up with a disability. So I took this course of action. So it wasn't really a difficult decision because there wasn't a tremendous number of options available. It was a big decision because it involved saving someone's life. But in terms of the behaviours and the values that they're looking for in the competency and values framework, these involve people and involve asking people for advice and guidance and dealing with people and explaining your rationale to people. So the big decision that involves the first aid doesn't really allow you to do that, because there wasn't any consultation, there wasn't any guidance, there wasn't any persuading, there wasn't any people involved other than our person who was doing the first aid and the person whose life that got saved. And that was it. And so what I'd urge you to do is to avoid those sort of Gucci jobs. I call them Gucci jobs because these are the ones that, like I said, involve tea and medals next day. The actual candidate, the person who I was practicing with just earlier, actually had an awesome example of when they'd had to let someone go in the workplace. And this was a very difficult situation that they had to deal with, where they had to seek advice and guidance, they had to look at policy. There's so many things they had to do that involved people to come to a final decision, and then they had to account for that decision to the person who was being let go in the workplace, but also how they had to account for that decision to other people in the workplace as well. A far more awesome example, but it wasn't anything like as big a decision. Does that make sense, folks? There's a big difference between a difficult decision and a big decision. So I'm hoping that makes sense. If anyone got any questions about that, please do ask. So let me just see if there's any questions. Wow, there's a load of you just joined. Faye Louise, Kieran, Daniel, Paul, stop calling me sir. Abby, James, Aretha, Charlotte, Alice, Nathan saying, I passed my online assessment centre and senior interview for Kent Police, third time lucky. Thank you for all your help and advice. Oh, wow, it's awesome to hear that. Well done, Nathan. Highly recommend online course. You have it bang on. Well, thank you. I'm in the pre-employment check stage now. They've said it's 8 to 12 weeks, but I reckon that's on a normal working day without COVID. One step closer though, thank you. Great result, Nathan. And the good thing about Kent Police is they're always recruiting. So I don't think they're going to backtrack on that. And I would say that yes, the pre-employment check stage is going to be about 8 to 12 weeks. Normally it'd be less, but look, difficult times at the moment. So that's an awesome result, Nathan. And thank you for the kudos. Edward's saying, thank you. Cheers, Brendan. Just passed my assessment centre with your course. Wow, Edward, you're going to be on our next interview programme, or do you have anything after that? Some forces, there's just nothing else after that. So, brilliant. George, Christopher, Job, Dom, Tim, all watching as well. So, anyway, there you go, folks. I just wanted to talk to you about that. Let's see, have we got time for another one? Yes, let's talk about another one. So there was another question that cropped up where I asked, tell me about a time when you've challenged someone's inappropriate behaviour. The individual concerned talked about how they challenged someone who was a customer about the use of their language, and it became a bit sort of antagonistic. You can't say that, yeah, who's going to stop me? You can't say that, who's going to stop me? You can't say that, you're having a laugh. And at the end of it, that was it. It didn't go any further. It didn't go any further. So it didn't really do it for me, because there was no sanction at the end of it in terms of, or there's no educating the other person, or there's no guidance for the other person. And it got very antagonistic. So it wasn't really a very good example of challenging inappropriate behaviour. Same thing happened. The more I dug, the more I explained it, the more I dug and delved into the background of this individual, they actually had an awesome example of where they were a manager in a management position, and they challenged someone who wanted to be in that same position as a manager, but they weren't chosen. And that other person was using inappropriate jokes in the workplace and was basically wagging off, was going off and disappearing for an hour when they shouldn't do. And this individual challenged that behaviour, and the conversation was very, very difficult. It was a very frosty conversation. From the sounds of it, it was more than frosty, but they dealt with it. They recognised how they could have dealt with it better. They reported it to their manager. Awesome example, brilliant example. And in both of these, part of me was thinking, why didn't you say that in the first place? Why didn't you say it in the first place? Well, I think the reason why they didn't say it in the first place is because they didn't think that those examples were what the police were looking for, that the police were looking for the more Gucci example. When I say Gucci, I mean it's like the big job, the one that gets, like I say, gets tea and medals next day with the chief superintendent. Now you're going to get those jobs, you're going to make the awesome arrest. You know, I can remember arresting someone with a loaded firearm. Brilliant, tea and medals next day with the chief super. Someone who'd been wanted for 5 years, and I'm the one that got him at 4 o'clock in the morning. Tea and medals with the chief superintendent. Actually, no medals, and it wasn't the chief superintendent. It was just like the inspector, because I was a sergeant and constable back then. But that's the sort of thing that we'd be talking about. But in terms of those examples, I couldn't have used them at any interview because they didn't demonstrate the people's side of the competency and values framework. They were just awesome jobs, and everyone was happy, you know, being able to do a job like that and, you know, take someone legally and ethically off the streets who, you know, had been wanted for so long was just brilliant. It's just fantastic. And taking a loaded firearm off the streets at the time, as well as about £10,000 worth of cash and about £10,000 worth of cocaine. Awesome job. It's just wonderful knowing that we got that back off an organised crime syndicate and I'd made the arrest. But they would be rubbish as examples in an interview situation. So I think that's why they didn't present the ones that are really going to be awesome in the first place. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense, folks. And hopefully that's been useful for you. Let's just see if it's been useful. Has it been useful? Let me know if it's been useful, folks. And a couple of comments. Let's see if anyone... So, oh right, Edward's saying, so he didn't have to do anything else as a special for Northants. He's just waiting on medical and the vetting and the start date. Brilliant news. Northants, great force. So if that's helped you at all, folks, do let me know. Give me some likes and loves. Give me something in the comments box. Otherwise, I'm going to shoot off. For those of you who attended the interview webinar this evening, I know it overran, but we just covered so much amazing stuff, didn't we? There'll be a recording of it available for you to download. I'll send you the link later on this evening. For those of you watching this on the replay, then I'll stick some links below to ways you can access some guidance for your interview. There's my 2-hour masterclass, which is free. It's just completely free, where I show you the 3 big mistakes that people tend to make and how to avoid them. And you know, just watch that. Get to the end of it as well. At the end of it, there's this awesome offer to work with me personally on a interactive webinar, but at a price you won't find on the website. So hopefully you'll enjoy that masterclass, and I look forward to seeing you at some point in the future. Tommy, Joseph and Robert have just joined us, and Robert, Matthew and Jacob. I'm really sorry, I'm going now. I'm going to press the finish button, but you'll be able to watch the replay of this. I shall catch up with you soon. Bye-bye for now.